They were there with Daniel. They were taken from their home, from their family, from their normacy. They were strangers in a strange new land, selected because of their royalty and good physical stature. Hannah, Micah, and Ezra were among the Jews who were taken to Babylon to be re-educated and prepared for royal service in the Babylonian kingdom. When they arrived, they were given the names they are most known by: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They, along with Daniel, stuck to their kosher diet as faithful Jews and were given great wisdom, knowledge, and understanding by God. They were quickly seen as the next tier group, along with Daniel. After Daniel interpreted the king's dream, they were appointed as managers of the province of Babylon. For these three individuals, their relationship with Daniel had helped them rise above the rest. But as they say, when you rise above the crowd, expect to get some tomatoes flung at you. Who is they? I'm not sure either. But anyway, things were going well for these three Jewish royals turned Babylonian leaders until they weren't. It was all because of a giant 90 feet by 90 feet golden statue. Can we be honest? Who wakes up in the morning and decides, oh, I know what I want to do today. I want to build a giant golden square. How bored do you have to be? Nonetheless, this giant square is what they did. This giant square is what did these three in. Once the statue was built, the people in earshot were commanded to fall down and worship the golden statue. The penalty for not doing so? Whoever does not fall down and worship will be immediately thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. Daniel 3:6. Like Daniel, some Babylonians grew jealous of these Jewish royals and brought an accusation against them to the king. You want to know how to make a king really angry? Don't do what he says to do. So when the king hears the news that the three of these royal leaders are disobeying him, he becomes replete with rage. He summons Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to question them and see if the accusation is true. Want to know another way to make a king really angry? Don't answer his question. And of course, that's exactly what these three do. When the king asked them if they refused to fall down and worship the gold statue, they responded with this: Nebuchadnezzar, we need to give you an answer to this question. If the king we serve exists, Nebuchadnezzar, we don't need to give you an answer to this question. If the God we serve exists, then he can rescue us from the furnace of the blazing fire. And he can rescue us from the power of you, the king. But even if he does not rescue us, we want you as king to know that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden statue you set up. Daniel 31:6-8. To say the king was angry would be a large-scale understatement. He was furious, heated, indignant, irate, and offended. He ordered the heat to be turned up 7 times its normal temperature. He had his best soldiers tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The furnace was so hot that the flames killed the men who were carrying them to the furnace as they were pushing them in. They were toast. Except they weren't. As the king looked inside the furnace from a healthy distance, he saw something that no one in their right mind would expect to see. Look! I see 4 men, not tied, walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th looks like the son of the gods. Daniel 3:25. The king called out to them and asked them to come out of the furnace. All of the king's royal leaders gathered around Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They realized that the fire had absolutely no effect on them, and they were completely unharmed. The people surrounding them gasped in surprise. The king immediately began praising the one true God. He saw the 4th person walking in the furnace with them as an angel who was sent by God to save them. We're not positive who it really was. Some people say Christ, some say an angel. Either way, what happened was an absolute miracle, and the people were baffled by it. King Nebuchadnezzar issued a decree stating, "Any one of my people, nation, or language who says anything offensive against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be torn limb from limb, and his house made a garbage dump. That's crazy, right? Now, look at his reasoning. For there is no God who is able to deliver like this, Daniel 3:29. The king then rewarded them in Babylon. How about that for a turn of events? They were accused of treason, smack-talked the king, sentenced to death, thrown in a blazing furnace, lived to tell about it, and then were ultimately rewarded. Only God. These three friends were being put to death because of their faith, because in the face of opposition they chose to worship God rather than man. There's a lesson here for us, because there will be times in our lives that we will be tempted to choose to please man over pleasing God. It may not be in a direct way, worship this instead of God, but it will happen. Here's the thing. Our priorities produce a window, and depending on what that window is made of, what our priorities are, we'll either see God on the other side or we'll see the world. And let's make no mistake, who we see on the other side tells us who we're really worshiping. For Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, not even death triumphed over their faithfulness to God. They could have cowered in fear over the prospect of death, bowed down to the king, but they had one clear priority in their lives: God. Friend, we live in a world that wants your worship. The world wants our desires, and it knows how to appeal to our hearts. So we must guard our hearts and yield to God's Spirit every day so that we can be proven to be faithful. To matter if a furnace or a financial hardship is before us, through thick and thin, God walks with us and leads us. We must open our eyes to see and have the boldness to say yes to Him above all else.